Success is not built by excuses, and it is not earned by defending yourself. Every moment spent complaining or explaining your choices is a moment lost from building your life. The people who achieve greatness do not wait for understanding or approval. They act, they take control, they hold themselves accountable, they embrace responsibility and move forward without defending every step. If you want to change your life, you must stop explaining and start executing. Stop justifying your actions to others and start proving yourself through disciplined, focused, and consistent work. Number 1, take full responsibility for your life and your results. Life changes the moment you decide to stop blaming anyone and start owning everything. That's the truth that separates people who move forward from those who stay stuck. The day you take full responsibility for your life, everything changes. Your mindset, your attitude, your results. You stop waiting for someone to save you and you start building your own future. That's when growth begins. Because as long as you complain, you give away your power. As long as you make excuses, you lose control. And as long as you explain your situation to get sympathy, you stay where you are. Responsibility is not punishment. It's power, it's freedom. Most people think responsibility means carrying a heavy burden. But responsibility is actually what sets you free. It means you no longer wait for anyone to fix things for you. You don't depend on the government, your boss, or your family to make your life better. You decide, it's on me now, and when you do that, something shifts inside you. You stop feeling helpless. You stop feeling stuck. You begin to see choices everywhere. You begin to see how much control you truly have over your habits, your time, your thinking, and your energy. And when that realization hits, you start building instead of complaining. When people say, "I can't help it," they close the door on their own power. Because truthfully, you can help it. You can control your words, your reactions, and your decisions. Life doesn't get easier for people who complain, it gets heavier. But when you take responsibility, the load becomes lighter because you're no longer fighting reality. You accept it, you own it, and you work on it. That's how you take control of your emotions, your finances, and your direction. Complaining drains you. Responsibility builds you. You might say, "But I didn't cause everything in my life." That's true. You can't control every event, but you can control your response to it. You can control what you learn from it. You can control how you rise after it. When something bad happens, you have two choices, blame or build. Blame freezes you in anger. Building moves you toward growth. When you stop pointing fingers, your mind becomes clearer. You start using your energy for change, not for excuses. And that's when you start seeing progress. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you ignore your pain or pretend everything is fine. It means you face the truth with courage. It means you stop saying, "Why me?" and start saying, "What now?" You ask better questions. You stop feeling like a victim and start acting like a leader of your own life. You stop waiting for motivation and start building discipline. You stop wishing and start doing. That's the kind of mindset that changes your future. Because success doesn't come to those who complain, it comes to those who act. When you blame others, you build walls. When you take responsibility, you build doors. That's the difference between being stuck and being free. The moment you stop saying, "It's their fault," your mind opens up to solutions. You start thinking creatively. You start moving with purpose. The world respects people who take charge of their lives. They don't need to explain themselves. Their results speak for them. You'll never see a strong person wasting time justifying their every move. They're too busy improving themselves. I've met people who complain about their job every day, yet they never learn a new skill. They talk about what they deserve, but they don't improve what they deliver. Life doesn't give you what you complain for, it gives you what you work for. The day you take ownership of your work, your time, and your energy, life starts to reward you differently. You begin to notice that people take you seriously. Opportunities find you. Respect grows. Not because you shouted for it, but because you earned it through responsibility. Hey, every great success story starts with a person who said, "I'm done blaming." They took what they had or made something out of it. They didn't have the best start, but they had the right attitude. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They worked with what they had, and because they did, life opened more doors. That's what responsibility does. It attracts progress, it builds confidence, it creates results that last. If you look around, you'll see that complainers rarely win. They repeat the same stories about how unfair life is, and every year looks the same for them. They wait for someone to feel sorry for them, but no one respects that. Because people can sense energy, they know when someone's weak or strong, and responsibility is strength. When you stand up and say, "This is my life, and I'm going to fix it," people feel that. They trust that. The universe moves toward that kind of energy. So if you're tired of waiting, tired of hoping someone will understand your situation, stop explaining, stop defending, stop looking for validation. You don't need people to agree with you to change your life. You need to take action. You need to decide that your results are your responsibility. Because once you accept that, you'll stop asking for permission to grow. You'll stop depending on others to make you feel capable. You'll know it's all in your hands now. The truth is, no one can make your life better except you. You can read all the books, attend all the seminars, and listen to all the motivation in the world. But if you don't take ownership, nothing changes. Complaining is easy, explaining is easy, taking responsibility is hard, but it's the hard things that make you strong. It's the hard things that shape you. So stop talking about what's wrong and start working on what's next. Your life will not improve by chance. It improves by change, and that change starts with you. So here's your reminder. Take full responsibility for your life and your results. No more blaming, no more complaining, no more explaining. From today, act like everything depends on you. Because it does. And when you do, you'll be surprised how fast your world transforms. Responsibility is not a weight. It's a weapon. It's the quiet confidence that says, "I'm in control now." And when you start living that way, life has no choice but to reward you. Number 2, build strength by staying silent instead of seeking sympathy. Strong people don't announce their struggles. They turn them into strength. That's the truth about maturity, self-respect, and real progress. In life, everyone faces pain, setbacks, and unfair situations. But not everyone handles them the same way. Some talk about their problems all day, seeking attention, wanting others to feel sorry for them. Others stay silent, learn from it, and keep moving forward. One of those paths drains your energy. The other builds your power. The difference between the two is emotional discipline. Staying silent doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've decided to grow instead of complain. There's a time to talk and a time to stay quiet. The problem is, most people talk too soon and too much. They turn every difficulty into a story they repeat again and again until it becomes their identity. When you constantly talk about your problems, your mind relives them and you give them more power. But when you stay silent, you give yourself time to process, reflect, and heal. Silence is not weakness. It's control. It means you understand that not everyone deserves to hear your struggle, and not everyone can help you. Some people only listen to judge or gossip. That's why strong people choose silence, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. If you truly want to grow, stop announcing every obstacle you face. Start working on yourself quietly. Let your progress make the noise later. Every time you choose silence over complaining, you train your mind to stay calm under pressure. You build emotional muscle. You stop reacting to everything. You stop needing approval for your pain. You start realizing that real peace comes from mastering your reactions, not from making others understand you. Life doesn't reward people who shout about their struggles. It rewards those who overcome them in silence and show the results. There's something powerful about people who can handle tough times without seeking sympathy. They carry themselves differently. You can see it in their eyes, calm, focused, grounded. They've learned that pain is temporary, but what you learn from it stays forever. Sympathy doesn't fix anything. It feels good for a moment, but it keeps you in the same place. Silence, on the other hand, builds discipline. It teaches you patience. It makes you stronger, sharper, wiser. When you stay quiet and face your problems head on, you grow a kind of confidence that no one can take away. Every time you explain your pain to someone who doesn't care, you waste energy that could have been used to grow. Think about it. How many times have you told your story to someone, hoping they'd understand, but they didn't? You felt worse, not better. That's because real healing doesn't come from explaining. It comes from doing. It comes from turning your pain into purpose. Staying silent gives you space to think clearly, plan better, and act smarter. You start asking yourself, what can I learn from this? Instead of, why is this happening to me? That shift is where maturity begins. You don't have to prove your pain to anyone. You don't need validation to know that what you went through was hard. The world doesn't owe you understanding, and that's okay. What you owe yourself is strength, focus, and growth. When you stop explaining, you stop depending on other people's empathy to feel strong. You build your own inner power. You start walking with quiet confidence. You don't need applause, and you don't need pity. You just keep moving forward, and people start respecting you more for it. Because silence speaks louder than excuses ever will. In silence, you learn to control your emotions. You stop reacting out of anger or frustration. You stop letting others pull you into drama. You start choosing your battles wisely. You become more selective with your energy, your time, and your words. That's real growth. Not shouting about what went wrong, but mastering how you handle it. People who complain look for comfort. People who stay silent build character. Comfort fades. Character lasts. You can't develop inner strength by always seeking someone to rescue you. You build it by standing firm. Even when no one's watching, when you stay silent, you also start to see who really supports you. You'll notice that when you stop explaining your situation, some people will disappear, and that's good. It reveals who was there just for gossip and who was there for you. Silence filters your circle. It helps you keep people who value your peace, not your problems. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your choices, your goals, or your growth. You owe yourself peace of mind, and sometimes that means saying less and doing more. The next time something goes wrong, instead of running to complain or explain, pause. Breathe. Remind yourself that you can handle this. Ask yourself, what can I do about it right now? Then act. That's what separates the strong from the weak. Action over attention. When you stay silent and focused, your energy builds momentum. Your actions start changing your circumstances. And one day, the same people who overlooked you will be asking, how did you do it? And you won't need to say a word. Your growth will speak for itself. So remember, staying silent doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means choosing your focus wisely. It means you've decided not to waste your energy trying to be understood by people who don't matter. It means you've outgrown the need for sympathy. Because when you stop explaining your pain, you start explaining your results. You stop asking for support and you start earning respect. That's real strength. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that endures. Be the person who doesn't need to talk about every problem because they're too busy solving it. Number 3, focus on solutions instead of repeating your problems. Talking about problems doesn't solve them. working on them does. That's a lesson most people never learn. They think talking is fixing. They think explaining is changing, but it's not. Every time you repeat your problems, you strengthen them. You make them more real, more permanent in your mind. When you shift that same energy toward finding solutions, life starts moving again. Problems don't disappear because you complain less. They disappear because you take charge. The moment you stop describing what's wrong and start asking what can be done, everything begins to change. That's where real control starts, in your focus. Life gives everyone problems. No one escapes that part. But what separates the successful from the average is what they do with those problems. Some people get stuck in the same story for years, saying, "It's hard, it's not fair," or "I've tried everything." But when you look closer, they've been saying the same thing for too long. The truth is, they haven't tried everything, they've just been repeating the same thoughts. The winners? They face the same storms, but instead of complaining, they get practical. They ask, what can I fix? What can I control right now? And then they get to work. You can't control every event, but you can control your effort, your plan, and your mindset. Most people waste energy replaying what went wrong instead of redirecting that energy toward improvement. You can't move forward while you're staring at the past. Every minute you spend talking about what happened is a minute you're not using to fix what's next. Life rewards people who act. So if something isn't working, stop explaining it, adjust it. Stop hoping for sympathy, start looking for strategy, because complaining doesn't change anything. Action does. You might say, but I need to vent. Sure, venting can feel good. But here's the question. After venting, do you get better or stay bitter? If venting doesn't lead to action, it's just emotional noise. You don't need more noise. You need clarity. You need to sit down and ask, what steps can I take today to make this better? You'll be surprised how simple the next move becomes when you stop over-talking the problem and start thinking through the solution. The more you focus on solutions, the more confidence you build. The less you talk about your limits, the more capable you feel. The habit of repeating problems is dangerous because it trains your brain to stay stuck. You start to believe that you're helpless, that life is happening to you, not for you. But every time you focus on a solution, you reclaim your power. You remind yourself, I can change this, even if it's a small step. Changing your routine, improving a skill, controlling your reaction. That's how you shift your life. Big change always begins with small action, not big talk. That's why you'll never see people who constantly complain move far. Their focus is stuck on what's wrong, not what's possible. Every situation in life gives you two options, talk or act. The people who act don't have time to complain because they're too busy building something better. The people who talk too much never act because they're too busy explaining why they can't. It's a trap. The truth is, life doesn't wait for your explanations. It responds to your execution. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to take the next step. Action brings clarity. Waiting and complaining bring confusion. Every small move forward builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. You'll notice that once you start focusing on solutions, your circle changes too. Complainers avoid you because you're not feeding their habits anymore. You start attracting doers, people who think, act, and grow. You'll start talking less about what's wrong and more about what's next. And that shift, that quiet focus, changes your whole direction. You stop living from emotion and start living with purpose. You start thinking strategically, not emotionally, and that's how people rise. That's how they rebuild themselves from failure, setback, or loss, not by talking about it, but by doing something about it. Ask yourself this, what's one area of your life you've been talking about for too long? Maybe your job, your health, your finances, your relationships. You've said, I need to fix it, I should do better, I wish things were different. But when does the talking stop and the doing start? The moment you stop repeating it and start acting on it, life shifts. It's not the size of the action that matters. It's the consistency of it. Take control of one thing today. It doesn't have to be big. Just make a move. Because every step toward the solution weakens the problem. People respect results, not you can spend your whole life trying to justify where you are. Or you can use that same time to change where you're going. When you focus on results, you start to feel proud. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're growing, you're improving, you're moving forward. You stop waiting for life to get easier and start getting stronger. That's the mindset of winners. Right? They don't waste words explaining their pain. They channel their energy into progress. That's how you take control of your life. So stop giving your problems more attention than your plans. Stop feeding your fears and start fueling your goals. The world doesn't need another story of why it's hard. It needs proof that someone made it work anyway. Yeah. You can be that proof. You can be that example. You can be the person who stopped talking about it and started doing it. Because once you focus on solutions, not excuses, your life begins to move faster than you imagined. The world opens up for the person who stops complaining and starts creating change. That's where freedom begins, not in talking about it, but in doing it. Number 4, take full responsibility for every part of your life. Responsibility is the turning point of every great life. The day you stop blaming others and start owning everything about your situation, your choices, your habits, your mindset, that's the day life changes direction. Until then, you're handing your power away. People waste years pointing fingers, defending their mistakes, or waiting for someone to come and fix things. But no one's coming. Life only starts improving when you say, it's on me now. That's not pressure. That's freedom, because when it's your responsibility, you have control. And when you have control, you can change everything. The truth is, you can't grow while blaming. You can't move forward while defending. Every time you blame your parents, your boss, your luck, or your past, you build a wall between you and progress. It may feel comfortable to say, it's not my fault, but that comfort comes at a cost. You lose your power to improve. You trade growth for excuses. The people who rise in life aren't the ones who avoid mistakes. They're the ones who take ownership of them. They say, I did this, and now I'll fix it. That simple shift separates achievers from complainers. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. It means claiming your ability to respond. That's what responsibility really is. Your responsibility. When something goes wrong, you don't panic or complain. You adjust. You don't say, why me? You say, what now? That's the mindset that turns pain into power. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every mistake becomes a teacher. People who take responsibility grow faster because they're always learning. They're not running from failure, they're using it. They see problems as signals, not punishments, feedback from life saying, try again, but smarter this time. You'll notice that when you start taking responsibility, people react differently to you. They start respecting you. Why? Because most people don't have the courage to own their lives. It's easier to blame. It's easier to complain, but responsibility is rare, and rare qualities stand out. Oh! The person who says, I'm fixing it, gets noticed. The person who says, it's everyone else's fault, gets ignored. The world rewards responsibility. Employers trust it. Families depend on it. Success is built on it. Every great leader, every successful person, every fulfilled soul, they all share that one trait. They take responsibility. It's not about being perfect, it's about being accountable. You can't improve what you refuse to own. If your health isn't where it should be, own it. If your finances are a mess, own it. If your relationships are falling apart, own it. Because when you own it, you can fix it. When you blame, you can't. The act of taking full responsibility might hurt your ego at first, but it strengthens your character forever. It builds a kind of self-respect that no praise can replace. Because deep down, you're no longer a victim of life. You're the driver of it. One of the greatest truths you'll ever learn is this: your life is a reflection of your standards. Whatever you tolerate continues. If you tolerate laziness, you'll get poor results. If you tolerate drama, you'll get chaos. If you tolerate excuses, you'll stay stuck. But when you raise your standards and take full responsibility for your time, your thoughts, and your behavior, life aligns with that discipline. Responsibility turns chaos into order. It brings focus where there was confusion. And that's what makes you powerful. Not your resources, not your luck, but your level of responsibility. Taking responsibility also means no longer depending on others for motivation. You stop waiting for people to understand you or push you. You stop explaining why you haven't done something. You just get to work. That's when growth accelerates, when you stop explaining and start executing. People who live by excuses depend on emotion to act. People who live by responsibility depend on commitment. One is temporary, the other is permanent. That's why responsible people always win in the long run. They don't need to be pushed. They're pulled by their own sense of ownership. It's easy to blame others for what you didn't get. It's harder to admit you didn't go for it. But the second option gives you power. Because when it's your fault, it can also be your fix. That's the beauty of responsibility. It's not about guilt, it's about control. The moment you say, "This is my life, and I'm responsible for what happens next," you step into leadership. You stop waiting for change and start creating it. The truth is, your results don't improve. When people change, they improve when you do. So take charge. You owe that to yourself. Every excuse you let go of makes you stronger. Every time you admit, "I can do better," you grow. Responsibility sharpens your mind and strengthens your discipline. It forces you to look in the mirror, not out the window. It makes you realize success isn't about who's against you. It's about whether you're doing what's required. The world doesn't care who's to blame. It rewards who gets it done. So instead of defending your position, start changing your approach. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions, take imperfect action. That's responsibility in motion. Action, not talk. The moment you take full responsibility for every part of your life, your confidence changes. You start trusting yourself again. You stop waiting for luck, timing, or permission. You move from "I hope" to "I will." And that shift changes everything. When you take responsibility, you gain freedom. The freedom to think better, work harder, and live stronger. That's the secret. Don't explain, don't complain. Take control, because once you own your life completely, there's nothing left to fear. Only everything left to build. Number 5, build self-respect through quiet discipline, not explanations. See, self-respect doesn't come from talking about what you're going to do. It comes from doing it silently, consistently, and without needing to prove anything to anyone. Most people spend so much time explaining why they haven't made progress, why things are hard, or why they're still waiting for the right moment. But here's the truth. No explanation will ever give you self-respect. Only discipline will. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust with your own mind. When you wake up early, even when it's hard, when you train your body, even when you're tired, when you stay focused instead of scrolling, when you do the work, no one's watching, that's where self-respect is built. Quietly, day by day, no applause, no audience, just you proving to yourself that your word means something. Discipline is the private victory before every public success. It's the foundation under every achievement you'll ever have. You don't have to tell people you're working on yourself. Let them feel it when they see the results. When you start changing from within, your energy speaks louder than your words ever could. That's why you don't owe anyone an explanation for your growth. You just owe yourself the discipline to follow through. Because here's the truth: explanations are cheap, but habits are expensive. Anyone can explain their failure. Few can discipline themselves for success. Anyone can talk about their plans. Few can wake up and execute them when it's inconvenient. You gain self-respect, not when life is easy, but when you choose to stay committed during the hard days. So stop announcing your intentions and start proving your consistency. Be so focused on improving that you forget to defend your past. Be so consistent that people can't help but notice your progress. Every quiet act of discipline is a statement of self-respect. It's saying, I trust myself enough to keep going. The truth is, real strength isn't loud. It doesn't need validation. It's built in the moments no one sees. When you refuse to quit, when you hold yourself accountable, when you do what's right, even when no one would know if you didn't. So don't explain yourself. Don't justify your dreams. Just do the work. Every early morning, every page you read, every hour you invest, they all add up. One day, you won't need to explain your journey because your results will speak the language of quiet discipline louder than any words ever could. Number 6, fall in love with becoming, not arriving. You know, most people spend their entire lives chasing a finish line that doesn't exist. They keep saying, once I get that job, I'll be happy. Once I make that amount of money, I'll feel successful. Once people finally notice me, I'll feel good enough. And they keep running in circles, always chasing, never satisfied. But the truth is, life doesn't reward you for arriving. Life rewards you for becoming, because success is never a destination. It's a process of constant improvement. It's about who you're becoming every single day, not where you end up. When you fall in love with becoming, everything changes. You stop rushing through life. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop waiting for approval. You begin to understand that the small things, the discipline, the consistency, the lessons, they matter more than the big moments. Most people want the trophy, but few want the training. Most want recognition, but few want repetition. But here's the truth. The work you do in silence builds the strength that the world will one day see in public. The grind that no one claps for is what defines your greatness. Success isn't something you get overnight. It's something you grow into. You build it through years of small choices, small sacrifices, and small wins that compound over time. You don't just wake up successful. You become successful through the person you decide to be when no one is watching. The process may be slow, but it's real. It's shaping you, molding you, preparing you. Every challenge you face is a test of your patience, your mindset, your faith. That's what becoming is all about. Building the kind of strength that success requires. Most people quit too early because they expect quick results. They want everything now. But success doesn't show up on your schedule. It shows up when you've earned it. And the only way to earn it is to stay in love with the process. Even when it feels boring, even when it feels slow, even when no one notices. Because the person who loves the process never stops growing. The person who's addicted to progress never stops winning. You have to stop chasing arrival. Right? Arrival creates pressure. It makes you believe that happiness lives somewhere else, in the future, in a result, in a number. But real happiness lives in the growth itself. The joy of learning, improving, and mastering your craft. That's where fulfillment begins. When you fall in love with the journey, you realize every step matters. Every setback teaches you something. Every win reminds you of your potential. every loss humbles you and keeps you grounded. The people who achieve lasting success aren't obsessed with outcomes. They're obsessed with effort. They don't wake up thinking, I need to win today. They wake up thinking, I need to get better today. And that's why they never stop winning, because they never stop becoming. They understand that arrival is just an illusion. Even when you hit your goals, you'll want more. You'll want to keep growing because becoming is infinite. There's always another level, another skill, another challenge waiting for you to rise. So shift your focus. Stop asking, when will I get there? And start asking, who am I becoming in the process? Are you becoming more disciplined, more patient, more consistent, more humble? Because that's the real measure of success. The money, the recognition, the achievements, they come and go. But the person you become through the process, that's permanent. That's your real reward. Fall in love with improving yourself. Fall in love with waking up earlier, thinking sharper, working smarter, treating people better. Fall in love with building habits that will outlive your motivation. Fall in love with challenging yourself, not for the applause, but for the pride that comes from knowing you gave your best. That's where real growth happens. The process is not glamorous. It's full of repetition, mistakes, and quiet work. It will test your patience. It will make you doubt yourself. But when you look back, you'll realize it was the process that made you. It was the process that gave you confidence, wisdom, and strength. The arrival will never give you that. Becoming will. So stop waiting for the big moment that will change everything. This is the moment you decide to take control of your growth. The moment you stop complaining about how far you are and start appreciating how much you've grown. The moment you stop saying one day and start saying today. Because the real power is not in arriving, it's in becoming. And if you keep becoming stronger, wiser, more disciplined, more focused, life will reward you in ways you can't even imagine. The destination will take care of itself, but the process, that's where your greatness lives. Number 7, take full control of your emotions and reactions. You can't master your life until you master your emotions. Most people think success is about skills, money, or luck. But the truth is, your real power lies in your ability to control how you respond to what happens around you. Because life will test you, people will disrespect you, plans will fall apart, and things won't always go your way. You can't control the world, but you can control how you handle it. That's where strength begins, not in what you do, but in how you react. When you lose control of your emotions, you give your power away. You hand it to whoever annoyed you, disappointed you, or hurt you. The moment you let anger or frustration decide your actions, you've already lost. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about managing them, feeling them, understanding them, and then choosing your response. Because the person who can stay calm in chaos, who can think clearly when everyone else loses their mind, that person wins every time. Every situation in life gives you two options: react emotionally or respond intelligently. One will destroy your peace. The other will build your character. Emotional control doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop allowing small things to control your big future. It means you stay grounded when others panic, patient when others rush, and focused when others get distracted. That's emotional discipline, and discipline in every form leads to power. Some people wake up angry because of what someone said yesterday. They carry it all day, replaying it in their mind, letting it ruin their mood, their focus, their work. But the truth is, they're fighting battles that don't even exist anymore. You can't grow while staying emotionally stuck. You can't move forward if you keep reacting backward. At some point, you have to say, I'm done giving my peace away. You owe it to yourself to protect your energy, your time, and your mental space. Emotional control is the mark of maturity. It separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Anyone can get upset, and anyone can complain. But the one who stays calm, who listens more than they speak, who acts instead of reacts, that's the person who leads. That's the person people respect. Real power is quiet. It's found in the stillness between what happens and how you respond. That moment defines your strength, your wisdom, and your future. You can't control people, but you can control your presence. You can't control how others treat you, but you can control how you treat yourself. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you're training your mind to rise above. Every time you stay focused instead of offended, you grow stronger. It's a daily practice, not something you learn once and forget. You have to train your emotions just like you train your muscles. Consistency builds control. Think about how many opportunities are lost because someone reacted too fast. They said something out of anger. They quit too early. They burned a bridge that could have led to something great, all because they let their emotions speak louder than their purpose. When you control your emotions, you buy yourself time to think, time to plan, time to decide. That's how you make smart moves instead of emotional mistakes. The truth is, your emotions are not your enemy. They're signals. They tell you what matters to you, but they're not meant to drive the car. They're meant to guide the conversation. The moment emotions start controlling your actions, you lose direction. You start reacting to people instead of pursuing your goals. But when you take charge of how you feel, you take charge of your life, because you're no longer a victim of mood or circumstance. You're the driver of your destiny. So when something happens that upsets you, pause. Don't speak. Don't react. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this helping my future? Most of the time, you'll realize it's not. And when you stop reacting to what doesn't matter, you'll have more energy for what does. You'll feel lighter, calmer, more focused. That's the kind of emotional control that makes you unstoppable. Control your emotions and your life will feel different. You'll make better decisions. You'll attract better people. You'll handle challenges with strength instead of stress. Because nothing will be able to shake you. Not failure, not rejection, not judgment. You'll stop living on emotional autopilot and start living with purpose. And that's when life becomes powerful. When nothing outside you can control what's inside you. Number 8, turn every complaint into a plan for improvement. Complaining is easy. Anyone can find something to be upset about, but complaining without action is useless. It doesn't solve problems, it doesn't change circumstances, and it certainly doesn't move you forward. If you want to grow, if you want to succeed, then every time you catch yourself complaining, you have to turn it into a plan. Identify the issue, figure out the solution, and take the next step. That's how you turn frustration into progress. That's how you stop being a victim and start being a problem solver. Most people spend their days complaining about what they cannot control. They grumble about traffic, coworkers, bosses, finances, or even the weather. But complaining keeps you stuck. It wastes your energy on things that don't matter. Instead, focus on what you can control. What can you do today to improve the situation? What action can you take right now to move closer to a solution? When you start thinking this way, complaints become signals. They point you toward what needs fixing and what needs your attention. Turning complaints into plans requires honesty. You have to look at your own role in the situation. You have to ask, what part did I play? What could I have done differently? Complaints often hide opportunities. Behind every irritation, every problem is a chance to grow. It might be hard to see at first, but when you focus on solutions instead of whining, Your mind starts shifting toward productivity and empowerment. You stop wasting time blaming others and start using that energy to improve yourself and your circumstances. A plan doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't need to take months to implement. It starts with small action. Maybe you complained about your health, so today you choose one healthy meal or a 10-minute walk. Maybe you complained about your work, so today you take a small step to improve your skills. Maybe you complained about a relationship, so today you reach out with understanding and respect. Small steps turn complaints into meaningful actions. Little by little, your life begins to improve. Improve, and frustration becomes progress. One of the biggest traps is thinking that complaining is a way to get sympathy. It's not. Complaining without action doesn't earn respect. It earns resentment. People stop listening, they stop taking you seriously, and worst of all, you stop taking yourself seriously. The only way to earn respect from others and yourself is to act, to take ownership, to turn dissatisfaction into a concrete plan for improvement. That's how you grow. That's how you develop self-respect and inner strength. The next time you feel the urge to complain, pause. Ask yourself, what can I do about this? How can I improve it? Transform that energy into a solution. Make a list of steps, write down ideas, and take at least one immediate action. Even if it's small, it's forward motion. Action changes your mindset. It changes your confidence. And it changes your life. Complaints are only useful when they lead to solutions. Everything else is wasted energy. You have to embrace responsibility. Complaints are often a sign of avoidance. You want something better, but don't want to put in the effort. To transform complaints into plans, you must accept responsibility for your life. You must realize that change starts with you, not someone else. Stop blaming external circumstances. Stop waiting for someone else to fix it. Take ownership, write your plan, and execute it. That's how real people solve problems. That's how leaders act. Complaints are never the answer. Action is turning complaints into plans also strengthens your resilience. Every time you do this, you train your mind to see opportunities in challenges. You train yourself to act instead of react. You build mental toughness. You build confidence. And when life throws bigger problems at you, you already know how to handle them. You've practiced turning dissatisfaction into deliberate action. You've learned to respond with a plan instead of a complaint. That's the mindset of someone who doesn't just survive life, but masters it. Every complaint is a lesson. Every irritation is a guide. When you learn to see life this way, you stop wasting time on negativity. You start analyzing, strategizing, and improving. You gain clarity, you gain control, and the best part is that your results start to reflect your new mindset. You begin to see growth in your career, your relationships, and your personal life. Complaints become fuel for progress, not chains that hold you back. You transform frustration into momentum, and momentum creates success. The power of this habit cannot be overstated. Stop complaining. Start planning. Every time you feel irritation or dissatisfaction, catch it, analyze it, and convert it into action. That simple shift separates average people from exceptional ones. That's how leaders think. That's how high achievers grow. Complaints are only a stepping stone when you turn them into concrete plans for improvement. Your life will transform when you stop wasting energy on excuses and start directing it toward solutions. Number 9, focus on solutions instead of problems every day. Most people spend their time thinking about what went wrong. They focus on problems, obstacles, and difficulties. This mindset keeps them stuck. It robs them of energy, motivation, and clarity. If you want to make progress, you must shift your attention. Instead of dwelling on problems, focus on solutions. Ask yourself every day, what can I do to fix this? What action will move me forward. When your mind is solution-oriented, challenges become opportunities. You start thinking clearly, acting decisively, and creating results. This simple habit changes everything about how you approach life. Focusing on solutions requires discipline. It is easy to complain, to vent, or to feel frustrated. But discipline means consciously redirecting your thoughts toward action. You observe the problem, analyze the facts, and immediately ask, what is my next step? You stop wasting energy on blame or regret. Every problem becomes a puzzle to solve rather than a weight to carry. When you train yourself this way daily, you develop resilience and problem-solving skills. You learn to navigate difficulties with confidence and calm because your focus is on what you can do, not what went wrong. The moment you focus on solutions, you take control of your life. Problems are a natural part of living, but they do not define your outcomes. Your actions do. By prioritizing solutions, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You stop letting setbacks determine your mood, your choices, or your success. You create momentum because each solution generates another step forward. Every day becomes an opportunity to improve and grow. You build habits that reinforce progress, not excuses. Your focus shapes your reality. What you focus on consistently will expand and manifest in your life. Solution-focused thinking also inspires action in others. When you stop complaining and start solving, people notice. They respect your attitude, your mindset, and your determination. You become someone others turn to for guidance, rather than someone they avoid because of negativity. This creates influence and credibility. Your focus on solutions sets a tone of leadership, responsibility, and effectiveness. People are drawn to those who act rather than react. You naturally attract opportunities and collaboration because you are seen as capable, constructive, and committed to results. Focusing on solutions requires humility and learning. You have to accept that mistakes happen and setbacks are part of life. You can't fix everything perfectly, and you can't control every circumstance, but you can control your response. Every day, focus on what you can improve and how you can solve it. Break challenges into smaller steps, experiment, and refine your approach. Learning comes from acting, adjusting, and persisting. This solution-driven mindset turns obstacles into lessons and lessons into strategies for the future. Growth follows consistent application of this principle. Another benefit of focusing on solutions is emotional stability. Complaining about problems increases stress, frustration, and anxiety. Your mind ruminates on negativity and becomes overwhelmed. Shifting to solutions redirects your energy into constructive action. You feel capable, empowered, and motivated. Even when challenges are significant, your focus on solutions keeps fear and doubt in check. You approach life with confidence because you know your energy is being applied to actions that produce results. Your emotions align with your purpose, making you stronger mentally, emotionally, and practically. To practice this daily, start with a habit. Every time a problem arises, write it down and immediately list possible solutions. Do not stop at one option. Explore multiple avenues. Take one immediate step, no matter how small, then review and adjust. This process creates a mindset where problems no longer dominate your thinking. It trains your brain to seek action instead of dwelling on frustration. Over time, you build a natural reflex to act, not complain. You become proactive rather than reactive, and your results improve exponentially. Focusing on solutions. When your mind is not stuck on the problem, it becomes free to explore ideas, strategies, and alternative approaches. You start seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. You innovate, experiment, and adapt. Each challenge becomes a chance to find a better method, a smarter path, or a more effective outcome. Solution-focused people consistently outperform those who obsess over problems because they convert difficulties into opportunities to advance. Your creativity becomes your advantage, and your resilience becomes your power. This habit impacts every area of life. At work, you find ways to improve processes, resolve conflicts, and achieve results. In relationships, you identify actions to strengthen connections, communicate effectively, and resolve misunderstandings. In personal growth, you figure out strategies to develop skills, health, and finances. By focusing on solutions daily, your life transforms from reactive survival to proactive mastery. Problems no longer hold you back. They become catalysts for improvement. Your results reflect your mindset, because consistent action towards solutions always produces progress. Ultimately, solution-focused thinking is a choice. Every day, you can choose to complain, dwell on problems, or focus on solutions. Choosing solutions creates momentum, confidence, and results. It trains your mind to act decisively and consistently, producing real progress in every area of life. Complaining leaves you stuck, frustrated, and powerless. Solutions create growth, opportunity, and empowerment. The decision to focus on solutions separates successful people from those who remain stagnant. Commit to this approach, practice it daily, and watch your life transform because your energy is applied toward results, not wasted in problems. Number 10, build self-respect through quiet discipline, not explanations. Self-respect is earned through actions, not words. Many people seek approval or validation by explaining themselves or defending their choices. This habit weakens character and creates dependency on others' opinions. So, true self-respect comes from consistent discipline, following through on commitments, and holding yourself accountable. You do what you know is right. Even when no one is watching, you honor your word, your time, and your responsibilities. Every day, small acts of discipline build integrity. Over time, these actions solidify self-respect, confidence, and credibility. Quiet discipline speaks louder than endless explanations and excuses ever could. Discipline requires control over your impulses. You resist short-term temptations that conflict with long-term goals. You maintain focus, even when distractions and difficulties appear. By doing so, you strengthen your character and reinforce your self-respect. Each choice you make in favor of discipline is a vote for your own integrity. You learn to trust yourself, to rely on your judgment, and to honor your commitments. The more you practice quiet discipline, the less you feel the need to explain or justify yourself. Your actions define you more than your words ever could. So, building self-respect through discipline creates freedom. Many people are trapped by their own lack of control. They complain, explain, and justify to avoid responsibility. Discipline liberates you from these cycles. By committing to your values and consistently taking responsible action, you reduce dependency on approval from others. You develop autonomy, inner strength, and confidence. People notice your consistency and reliability. Others respect you because your behavior reflects your principles. When you act with quiet discipline, you command respect without demanding it. Your reputation becomes a natural reflection of your choices and habits. Quiet discipline also strengthens. When you face criticism, setbacks, or misunderstandings, you don't react defensively or over-explain yourself. You remain calm and composed because you know your actions are aligned with your values. Emotional control is a direct result of disciplined living. You stop seeking external validation and instead rely on your own sense of integrity. This reduces stress, frustration, and regret. You develop a mindset that prioritizes results and personal growth over approval or recognition. Your energy is spent improving yourself and your life, rather than justifying your decisions to others. To practice this daily, set clear personal standards. Decide what you will commit to and what you will tolerate. follow through consistently, even when it is inconvenient or difficult. Avoid the urge to defend or explain your choices to those who may not understand. Focus on the work, the habits, and the actions that reinforce your integrity. Every small decision adds to your self-respect. Over time, these daily choices accumulate, creating a life of quiet strength and credibility. Discipline becomes natural, and self-respect becomes unshakable. Self-respect earned through discipline is long-lasting. Unlike validation from others, which is fleeting and unreliable, discipline-based respect comes from within. It is a personal standard that cannot be taken away. Each time you honor your commitments, keep your word, or maintain focus on your goals, you reinforce this respect. You develop pride in your character, consistency in your actions, and confidence in your ability to navigate life independently. Others may misunderstand or criticize, but your integrity remains intact because it is built on discipline, not explanation. So my friend, before we end today, remember this: the result will always come. It might not show up when you expect it, but it will come when you've earned it. And the way you earn it is by becoming obsessed with the process, obsessed with learning, obsessed with showing up every single day, whether it's fun or not, whether anyone claps for you or not. Because that's what separates the ones who talk from the ones who transform. Stop worrying about how far you still have to go. Look at how far you've already come. Every small act of effort, every late night, every quiet moment of discipline, it's all building something inside you that no one can take away. When you give your full heart to the work, when you fall in love with progress instead of perfection, life begins to open doors you didn't even know existed. So keep your head down, keep doing the work, let others chase recognition. While you chase mastery, let them talk about success, while you quietly create it. Because the one who stays focused on the process, who stays faithful in the grind, will one day wake up living the results everyone else only dreamed of. That's the real secret. Don't get obsessed with the reward. Get obsessed with the work. Because the work, the honest, relentless daily work, is the reward.